2 days ago, there were about 70 students came to the temple, and one of the students asked me a question, a very beautiful question. What is it in Hinduism? What is in Hinduism that strikes you the most? She's asking me, the student. What is it? And I said, well, that's a very beautiful question, and I had no hesitation in answering it. I said, the reason why I'm so much involved with this is how it started. There's no founder of this religion. Now just remember, nobody founded Hindu religion. It's by people like you and I. There's no prophet in this religion. There's no hierarchy in this religion.
Please keep it down.
That I have to report to XYZ. There's no conversion in this religion, which makes me absolutely proud. There's no conversion in Hinduism. Nobody is converted to Hinduism. Actually, it's forbidden. It's totally forbidden conversion. So this is one aspect. The other aspect, why I'm so proud to say there's a lot of flexibility. How I keep a rapport, how I relate, how I recognize God, if that is what we're talking about. There's a lot of flexibility. And I'll talk about this. There are 4 channels, 4 ways in Hinduism. They are described how you can relate to God. And I'll quickly mention, but I'll come back to that. The most common is bhakti. B-H-A-K-T-I, bhakti, devotion. Devotion to that God. You sing, you recite hymns, you praise that God. That's called bhakti. That's the most common in every religion, without exception. You go to a place of worship, the clergy, the priest, whoever recites you, and you do prayers, that's a type of a bhakti. And Hinduism survived, flourished, purely on bhakti. And a big component in Hinduism is bhakti, devotion to that God, rituals, prayers, using a symbol. The other one is meditation and yoga. And as I say, I'll come back to those points. The third, which appeals the most to me in that way, who am I? Who am I? In Sanskrit there is a word, tatvamasi, tatvamasi. That is what you are looking for. If you are looking for God, that's what you are. I like this so much that you spend all your life learning. Who are you? What is the purpose of life? That's your second. Yoga and meditation. Jnana yoga, knowledge about yourself. Are you this physical body and mind that I see? No. It's way beyond. Your true nature is totally different. And that comes by knowledge. Jnana yoga. That's the third way. And the fourth way is karma yoga. You do your duty, selfless duty, once you acquire the knowledge that you are ultimately a symbol of God. You are God. And your job is simply to do God's work. When you do God's work, we don't put conditions on it. So it's a selfless work. It's your duty. You have no rights, but you have responsibilities. So these are the four channels. I like the one which says, Tattvamasi, you are what you're looking for. Another thing which pleased me about Hindu religion is how it started. And 5,000 year history, what it has gone through it, which I'll give you a brief summary. And it not only survived, it's flourishing. 5,000 years back, today what is Afghanistan, Pakistan, India was not divided at that time. There was one continent, India as a continent. There was no division of any part. There was a civilization there, Indus Valley civilization, 5,000 years back. Indus is the river. So on that river, the people who lived, that's the Indus Valley civilization. They built homes, they worshipped something based on the archaeological evidence. That was 5,000 years. 4,000 years back, another group of people called Aryans. Now this is important because some of the things which they did, the Aryans, is very applicable to today. The Aryans, who were they? Where did they come from? There are all kinds of theories on it. They were the local. Max Muller said, no, they came from Central Asia, and on and on. What are their characteristics? They had language, Sanskrit. They had caste system. The caste system that we talk in Hinduism is started with the Aryans 4,000 years back. They had the scriptures, the Vedas, which we follow today. They worshipped nature. Anything which gave life, they worshipped. And what was this gave life? The sun, the moon, the air, the water, and on and on. Everything gives life on earth, so they started worshipping all those. That's how the two group of people lived side by side. Better understanding came. And then 3,000 years ago, the classical Hinduism evolved. After these two groups, they came to some understanding or whatever. So what we follow today is about 3,500 years history. And what is this? Classically. The Vedas are the scriptures. Hindus, if I call Hindu, then I'm a follower of Vedas. There are 4 Vedas. And 4 Vedas, one part talks about the hymns, talks about the rituals, how we recite those. That's the first part. Second part, the very important part, are the last part of the Vedas called Upanishad. U-P-A, Upanishad, N-I-S-H-A-D, Upanishad. In Sanskrit, it means what is nearest to you. What is nearest to you? The nearest to you is yourself. Something inside. There's nothing nearer than that. She is sitting at a little distance from me, but there's something in me is the nearest to me. Upanishad. So there was discussion on the mysteries of that unique thing that's in each one of us. And that is where the concept of God came in. Concept of Brahman, B-R-A-H-M-A-N. Upanishads, Vedas, the end of Vedas is related to this concept of Brahman. Om, Now, Om is a very common word. Those who yoga and meditation, Om is very common. That is the concept in Upanishads, Vedanta, of God. That God is something beyond human comprehension. It is transcendental, but at the same time it's everywhere, immanent. That was the concept of God, Brahman, in the Upanishad. It's too abstract for anybody, but there's a description, if you look at the original, that Brahman is not personal, belongs to you, to me, no. Does not belong to any religion, particular religion. It's not sectarian. It never dies, never born. It is something which we can't even describe. It has no name. We may call it Brahman. It has no form, it has no gender. But what is it then? All kinds of speculation that it is some sort of power, some energy, which is everywhere. And wherever there is energy transcends, there is life. And if there is life, there is activity. Activity in terms of creation. So that was the concept of Brahman, the God, in the Upanishad. Transcendental concept. So that's how the thing started. Then came 2,500 years ago, which is the glorious part of the Indian history. Buddha, they had four castes, the Aryans, as I mentioned, and one of the castes was Brahmin, B-R-A-H-M-I-N, the so-called scholarly person. They believed in the first part of the Vedas, the rituals, reciting, pleasing God, pleasing kings, and in return ask for something. This is what is happening in today's world. The second one was Kshatriya, the warriors, the lawmakers. That was the second caste. The third caste was the Vaishyas, who deal with money, business, and so on. And the fourth caste was the Shudra, the sports star. So when it came to 2,500 years ago, Buddha, he was a Kshatriya. He rejected outright the Vedic concept of God. It's not transcendental, I don't believe. It's not immanent, none of that stuff. And I don't believe what the Brahmins are teaching. It is between me and the creation. That's all he talked about. And I'll talk about his concept a little later. At that time, another Kshatriya didn't agree with the Brahmins and came up with a religion called Jainism. So two religions evolved out of Hinduism 2,500 years ago. Buddhism and Jainism. Another thing which happened at that time, that's why I say it was the golden time, is all the Hindu scriptures were written. And beside the Vedas, the second one, which is the ultimate for us, is Bhagavad Gita. It is scripture that we read every day. You can't read Vedas, but Bhagavad Gita you can read every day. It's like Quran, it's like Bible, it's like Torah. You just read it. And what does it say to you, that book? It tells you, who are you? What is your true nature? Why are you after your body and mind? Your true nature is totally different. And your duty, your dharma, is very important. And that's how the concept in Bhagavad Gita started. Then came the two big epics were written, Mahabharata and Ramayana, these are the stories. The part of the Indian Hindu scriptures are the Puranas. There are 18 of these different stories about gods and goddesses. Purana is the one which keeps the religion alive. People just love to hear stories, do rituals, and keep the religion alive. When it comes to philosophy, the religion will die easily. So that's what our scriptures were. That time, King Ashoka, about 2300 years back, before Christianity in India, he adopted Buddhism as India's national religion at the national level, and Buddhism spread not only in India, all over, but to every other place nearby. First he went to Tibet, then to Sri Lanka, Burma, Indochina, and on and on. That's how in Ashoka's time this thing happened. Then came the Christianity in the Middle East, and of course Judaism was there before. Then at AD, this started. In the first 1,000 years, that means 2,000 years to 1,000 AD, that millennium, a lot of things happened. Christianity arrived from Syria to Kerala. Judaism came again to the south. There are beautiful synagogues if you go and see them. And that came in the 75 AD kind of thing. Then within India, a Gupta, G-U-P-T-A is a common name, Gupta dynasty came. With the Gupta dynasty, things totally changed. The Hindu revival came in. The Sanskrit came back. All those Vedic, Vedantic teaching came back. Pilgrimage, all the temples came back. All the names came back. And then Shankaracharya, which is the famous philosopher, he came up that the world, the creator, whoever that creator is, and the creation is one and the same thing. That means God, you, and the creation, all three of these is one and the same thing. There's no separate. It's one unit. That's Shankaracharya's philosophy of Advaita. No duality between you and the God. That was about the 17th, 18th century. 18th century came the Zoroastrians from Persia, and they settled on the western coast, Mumbai. And the most thriving community, the intellectuals, the brightest, and they are there since then, up to today, very thriving community. Then came the 11th century, Islam just appeared, and it took full control by the 16th century. And in the 16th century, another Kshatriya, Buddha was one, then found another Jainism, another Kshatriya came. He didn't agree with the Brahmin, and he founded the Sikhism, you know, people with a turban. So that's another offshoot of Hinduism. The only difference between Buddhism, Jainism, the Sikhs follow the teachings of Vedas, whereas Buddha and Jainism did not. Sikhs don't do the rituals using images that Hindus do in their temples. But otherwise, they follow the same thing, same custom, same everything. That was about 16th century. Then came the Europeans, 1800 years, 18th century. the Dutch, Portuguese, French, the British, and they were there for over 200 years. With them came the missionaries, with them came the conversion, with them came the division of the country into different parts. About 70 years ago now, things have changed. None of that stuff is there. It's a new beginning. New beginning of what? India is a democracy, and it's a secular state where religion doesn't come into the picture, which is a beautiful thing, that the religion should be totally separate. What is the composition of India today? 80% believe in the Hindu ideology. 10 to 12%, maybe 15%, is Islam. Then the rest small group constitute Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, and on and on. So that's what it is today. And the emphasis is very clear. There is only one God. Call it by any name you like. We call it Brahman. In Islam, Allah. In Christianity, Father. Or in Judaism, any other name. Whatever name you want to call it, God is only one. You can see that God in any form and shape you like. You worship any way you like. Read any scripture you like. Any dimensions you follow. But God is still one. That is the concept in the latest, when we talk about the Indian history. Now the question is, what are the classical teachings of Vedas? This is what Hinduism, and I mentioned that Hinduism is the rituals, first and second part. The third part of the Vedas is meditation, and the fourth part, the Vedanta, the Upanishad, the concept of Brahman. A person like you and I, especially me, and vast majority, this is too abstract. They need something to relate to. So they came up with the names and forms of that Brahman, which you cannot see. You can't even visualize. So they came up with all the names that you see in a Hindu temple. All these idols which represent Brahman is a creator of this universe, is a preserver of the universe, is a redeemer of the universe. So the Hindus have given names. Brahman now transcends as Brahma, the creator. Vishnu as a preserver, Shiva as a redeemer. Then there are various incarnations of Vishnu, Rama and Krishna, and there are other names based on the attributes of that Brahman. So these are the human models. Now you come to in our temple, the planets. You know, you can't survive without sun, moon, and air and so on, so we worship planets. You can't survive without fire, so we have fire ceremony. Hindus are not the only one who do the fire ceremony. It's well known. The Zoroastrian faith, the main symbol of God in that is fire.
Look at this guy.
You go to a Zoroastrian temple, that's what it is. And the native Indians did it, Romans and Greeks did it, fire, as a symbol of God. So we have fire ceremony related to fire. All Hindu marriages take place around the fire. And the last event in the life cycle is the cremation. All Hindus, offshoots of Hinduism, Buddhists, Jain, Sikhs, they all cremate. So this is the fire becomes very important. So these are the symbols, and related to these symbols, they are rituals. And that's what keeps the religion alive, the rituals, the bhakti. That's what it is. Now, the second thing is, God is in me. What do I do? That's where comes the meditation and yoga. Find out your true nature. And the third, fourth one is karma yoga, which I already described to you. This is called dharma. Your duty. Your duty is what? Your duty is to find a harmony, a balance between the God that you cannot see and the God you see in creation. And what is that creation? It's you and me. So individual soul to individual soul, my relationship to the universe, that is called dharma, finding a balance. So the society, creation, lives, survives because of dharma, where the